voin youth parliament kan nei tura competition na local tura local te Lunglei district mun sang atanga local zong te chibai kabuk chewa abik takin Lunglei khopon atanga local te hetiang program ngai lua local te hi kangai sang em cheu ni ti kha ka soidu ani he category ni a in l tur zong te in va in du sakna ka hlan chewa tin audience te pon ngun takin ngai tha ila engtik khuna e mochuan kan ram siam thaturin hetianga mi ma akan ladin ve hun te hi ala thlengang ti kha in ril ruwa chungin ngun takin thu soite ngai tha ula kan va in voina hian he hun hi hlok takin man itumang u kalome
VIksit Bharat Youth Parliament hi 2019 atanga tan anito a chuan district atanga representative te state level in ti siakna an kalthin ta a state level a hian tun tum chu mi panga voina competitors zinga mi kha thlan chwa in ni dorani chuan khatatang khan mi som state level atang khan select in ni le anga state level atanga som select a khan apakhat na pani na pathum na kha parliament a khan inzukalanga apakhat na khan thu soyanga apani na le apathum na kha chu a witness to injuni donani chuan inkal dan tura hi training inkal mai don lova flight hian thlang pu hian an tir thina chuan india ramakan hotel nei ro pui changkang ke ni pon dam chung voi khate ti in kan varap pha ve chawani chu private in ani chu official in la ni phalo asoka hotel ti te athlang pu hian an booking sak thina chuta chuan nuam dewin le delhi tour te an bo sei sak thin bokani kalman a om e ma chuan kan thria tur chu kan thalai te hi kan ram ro rel dan kal phung hi in aware anga yani no pangkanya tirengot lovin keimani han mo phurna kan nei thewani ram siam thaturin.
Now I'd like to call upon our chief guest Puzui Thanga, chairman of the Lunglei Municipal Council, to give his speech. Before his speech, as a token of our appreciation, we'd like to give him a small gift. So please, sir, please come on stage.
Với nạ, hey, hun chatak mấy cái hành này kan principal, pilal thang moi, principal government college, government JB college te, APMRC salate, tun ma kan thọ pui chin, NYK ni la ya eng mobit contest te kan han ti pui chin te kha ani hello retire ve ta tin hey pumai kal lal muan om te JB college tin judge sang te kan judge za om tak te tin college student how te tin me the NGO atanga local te midang zong te khai zawain chi bai kan buk ve chewani hei voi la in singa hun mang thei tura du sakna ka changi ka wan nei le maya hai sikula kumsom thum chuang ka thoka nangniang a thalai ho zinga khosa reng ka ni wang khan thalai bolom hinwam ka ti ama ro chu hey technology ma son na hian Mizoram Mizo temin han chim thut maya chung kolam in rail bon na le kan nam ma son na ina aron kentel ai na sa ayat sakin he ma son na hian min ron nanga he kan technology le kan ma son na sang te kan man thiam lo lau reng hun rei takha ka mang ve thin kha ania tu na ro chon kan in sing sa chho ret theta ma te kan son chowa kan thiam chho ve zel kha ani bokani hey amain kan ngai thato kha voin VIksit Bharat Youth Parliament chungchang kha keynote address te welcome address te kan an re chhota mol chu wang chuan khalam pangkha soi em katum lova amaro chu soi du deu kan ya ให้กับทุกสอยตูที่นิจานแข่งขันสอยดานตูเชียดทัศสากติกันอินบัวใส่เทโลตุกินักกันอินบัวใส่ตานกเดวะจู่บางจวนอินกันน้อยเดียวที่จู่กับลาวเวียวนะอามาโรจู่อุลุกเดวินลงไอ้ถนนนี่อ๋อเฮ้ย Prime Minister นเรนทราโมดีเฮียนินมัดหีระเนี่ยสังนิสมลีปัสตาริอาจวนอินเดียรัมฮี developed countries กันทันทีรัมมาโซนซิงอาคารเตลดัวสุดท้าย participate เวตูเลยสุดลำหอยริลรุมังตัวจวนชลายเตหิอาดูอันนี้จุดนี้บางจวนเฮ้ยตัวนักนั้นมันเมกอังจีเตโปรแกรมพอยหมดตักไม่บารัตอันนั้นที่หน่วยเฮียนโปรแกรมสังค่ะอันนั้นเสียมาตัวนักกันอินเอลนัตูร์กันอินบัวใส่เมก district level กันนั้นที่พอฮีที่ขานขมีตานกันนี่ชาวเซล่ะชลายเตหิกันรำเล่กันนำมาโซนชาวนัตูระเฮียนินอันริลรูอันเปเวโตกตัวนี้ทินอันมานี่พออันนี้น้ำหน่อยตั้มตัวนี้ที่ข้ากัน Prime Minister วิจารณ์ข้าเนี่ยวางเงินข้าไว้ดับไว้กันริลรูสุกแขกลำตัวนิตาเซล่าอาชัยก็ใช้ครบมายาข้าลำห้อยซองข้าอินจงชวนนั่นเตปอกันในชาวเจ้าตัวง่ายละกันอินที่เสียงนะทุบไว้เลยกันกัลพุ่งเตปอก็ใช้เราหน้าข้าลำห้อยข้านี่กันริงเดียวงดอันนี้เฮ้ยตุนลาเฮียนินgeneration ตุน generation ที่ชลายที่ cover นี่กันที่อดีตคบไม่ตลอดชลายที่ cover นี่จู่วางกันตรงกำชวกปอยหมดตะกะปอคานเฮ้ยกันนู่นนี่ it's my life ที่กันหันที่แต่เราเฮ้ตรงกำฮีตรงกำชัดเดียวไม่เนี่ยนู่นแหละป้าเตอ่านคุ้มนะตัวหลานจีตรงกำมันนี่เราว่าเชียนเตสิงอินตีเทนะตัวจีอันนี้รู้ตุกโลนามาเสียอันนี้เทดานเอามาจงกำชัดได้วันนี้นะจูเฮจงกำเฮียนมานี่กันอินริงโตกันนี่ที่อาเก่งเตลตัดมายาข้ามีทูสอยตูร์ข้าจวนเองนู่นเลยป้าได้โจมลมเลยตบอัพมันตักเงี้ยปอนู่นเลยป้าเต้นอันเป็กเตเลยขัดยังลำปังปอเอกบางไอตัวละว่ามีเตหันโจทูร์เลยมีเตตีบอยซองปองปอรังเดียวเขาเป็น it's my life ที่เวงก็ข้าจูที่จะทักตะกันนี่อันนี้เราวันนี้ที่เราข้ามีกงลำหอยซองข้าอันนี้เราวันนี้จู่วางเงินมาโซนนักกงสังเตหิ it's my life เฮ้ยกันนู่นนี่กันที่อินริงโตกตะกันสวยงามมันนี่จวนกันรำมาโซนนะกันชุ่มก็มาโซนนั่นแหละเฮลายรำขดล่างไปนะมาโซนนะเสียตัวรัตน์เฮียนเฮกันนู่นเฮียนโมอพูระนี่เฮ้ยกันนู่นนี่ข้ากันที่เวทีอ่างายเฮ้ยตุนไล่ไอทีมาสนนะกันเสียมากันสนนะสะมาเกี่ยพี่จวนนี่นังนี่เรียจันเวไปก็แค่พลาวเร่งอะไรกันจู่วางจวนชลายที่เห็นขลามอาคารเกี่ยนเป็นนะสะเทียมาขลามหอยซองมาสนนะคารเทียอินไงมาให้ชัวเทียตั้มเสียเลยซิร์เทียตูร์ตั้มเสียเลยจันมันจังไก่ตั้มเทียเสียค่ะอินเทียงมาเฮ้ยไอทีAI กันติเต Insta กันติเต WhatsApp กันติเต Facebook กันคัดอย่างส่งกันอินสิจ้าวันนี้เกี่ยจนเคลมเตกันเทเวเดวจ้าวันนี้เฮ้ย Office อาเตปอ e-file เตกันติเวเองก็มองเล็กกันติโดนี่ละจุมีพอร์ตละจวนลุงง่ายกันติคัดอย่างเสียคัดตุนไล่ cover คีอันนี้ตัววางเงินอุปลัมเฮียนค่ะตีฮาร์สันติตัวจุยฮาร์สันติตัวซิร์จบเตฮาร์สันติริลจบง่ายนี่นังนี่ทลายหัวจนข้างข้าออลซัมแต่ก็อินมันซุงอินเชซุงจู่อินไลฟ์อันนี้จู่วางจวนอินมาสอนนักกงตัวนักการมามีแต่นั้นสยังจีเตCentral Service นี่โม State Service นี่โมกันขดล่างอินมากันสอนนักตัวนี่โมลุงเลยอินมากันสอนนักตัวนี่โมชิมแล้วอินมากันสอนนักข้างซงอาคารข้างข้ามันรบปอยมอนนี่วางอินนังนี่อินปอยมอทลายเตโคเวลนี่นักสุขาค่ะเราหนีตาอันนี้เฮ้ยอินเดียรำจังลงมิโซรัมบีกันแต่พอลงเลยมาสนนัตักตัวราชวนชลายแต่ทั่วขี้กันมาหมอนังนี่ทั่วขี้กันมาหมออันนี้อินทั่วจักเสียที่อินเสียโมก็เตอินทั่วจักเสียที่กูกุลาเดนโซเดี๋ยวอินริรุจักเสียเลยอินทิลตีที่สานเสียที่อีจงอุลาจะวางเงินอุปาเดตนเสียเลยอันนุนเนนมาเตเองก็หมดแต่จุเลยกันปอยโมอันนี้รัวเฮียนินโคเวลเก็บเป็นรัวละเป็นเวตักตัวจวนชลายเต้นเทียมนัทเทคโนโลยีมังอินโถฮีอ่างายะจินตการใส่ตากผู้โมดียะเบสเซนะ a vision kan han soi tak ang chia kan ram ma son na tak tura chuan in nam noi angaya anasa theyang bera in real ru in pe kangaya ka soi fo thina KMTTP po lunglei ya hedairon kong puite tlang phenga so ta tlan lunglei chimlam ti tlan pel puat anga tlabung lama tanga bor ta te ta lo omanga motor lian pui ron tlan pel puat anga a lo na zong kamin an tel vi kang ti te lo mani kha wang khan thalai ten khalai khan enge ma son na chimlam tan kan lo puak chuang ti te khang zong poka in kuta om ani upa ho in ti ngai nan reng lo wania ti kha riat tu ni a chu wang chuanin ti tak zetin lunglei lam te chimbial lam tan te he chimbial lam kan ni angin ma so na turin in ril ru seng ro u thalai te rui lo le nom si bol na konga hun kho ral mai hun kho ral mai man kan di lo ani tro ke ni ho hi rui lo le enge mo nom si bol na 60 vel enge mai ya hun khoral mai ve man kan ni lo ni ke ni ho chu wang chuan ke ni hun khoral mai man kan ni lo mai bo ni lovin midang khatianga in mang thin te po kha kan chan chuanga ya kan nau te lati chin ve lo ho te hi an tan ma in heng te po hi kan sir ti da kan kai hruai anga ya ni chung te po chu kan soi ve le thuak a hi na thui vak lo ka soi so trep to ni o hey thalai te si ka soi du em pakhat chu trong thiam hi hei ke hi chin ka soi yang khanin high school atanga private mai ya BA te zir chuak ve thiam lo tak ka de trong te ka thiam English te ka thiam mang hau lo maya ka exam na re chon le ka ziak chuak ve ni maya an the thei diang chu ka pass ve lau zel zoka a trong so zar tu phei chuanin nang ni hau ruala pe bula phei chon ka ngam hau lo wani chu tiang khop chuanin ke ni kha chu kan ni a amar chu nang ni chu khatiang khai ni ve to lova trong hi in thiam mangai English in thiam manga Hindi po in thiam mang chung chu nang manil ril ro om sa in thiam turen ngai sa ni ka renga chu aya ka soi du war pakhat chu mizo trong hi in thiam nge turani mizo trong poi mo sia chu ma da chang ania mizo trong in kan lungaya mizo trong in kan lo ma kan ngai tura zong poi mizo trong ania wangin tin trong thiam hi apoi mo em a na han tho don tak te thil han ti don tak thei voi na po kananin trong siak don ania iril ru ingai tua na tak kha soi chuak turin mizo trong ithiam tok in tiam tin mi te ne na kan ram ma son na chung chang amo kan khotlang ma son na tur chung chang amo kan chung poi ram mo khatiang soi tur khan amo i thian te na ingai zia te ilung le zia te khatiang soi chong khil tur khan mizo trong ithiam tokem khang te kha i in ngai to ngai i zirangai tin achen chu pastor tur point nianga politician tur te point nianga zirtir tu tur te point nianga oi om taka pathian thu soi thei tur te oi om taka political party an politician soi thiam na tur te tin innau te in zirtir tur innau ten rui lo le engemo nom si bol na lam a kong an zolop na tura an oi nge na tura in soi thiam the turin mizo trong in thiam ngai in soi fi thiam lo chuan in thu an oi thei lawang adong song tu te na don sun nuam taka trong kam mu ma tak fel taka an lo ngai thak the turin kha soi kha in soi thiam angai chu van trong thiam pi apoi mo ema mizo trong dik thiam zir turin in ro in siam ro mei tiang chi mizo trong dik lo deu tun lai la deu te an soi fo thin in she fo wang group WhatsApp te ke mo comment aten sap atam hi he tiang te hi in ngai ven anga mizo ka ni mizo trong hi ka thiam ngai ne te in ru siam ula thai ka sia tin chalai te bule soi tur ka nga lutuka ka soi zel chon ka in soi popanga re deu ka seng ti ka law dewa chu wangin top don hey visit Bharat Youth Parliament 2026 hian India Vision 2027 thir chungin thalai ta tam thiang ber na sataka in nam noi tur le in ta lu tura abuat sai in elna tun hen hin ma chon chodon ani he ga te po hian te patop in chuanga in ril ru in khalam kha hoisela voin program mi ani dan turang takin in ngai to na chulam chu hoi turin kan fui ve chewa hei tin ka soyang khan Mizoram le chimbia lunglei ma son na turin thalai te theina le thiam na chau chuak turin thanem ngai takin thok tlangi la chom hlom le mi mason na thir tur ringot chom hlom ni chunga mi mason na thir tur ringot khovel ram sang sanga thalai te mason na thir tur ringot kan ni big lawani ti thalai te an chiang ta kan thia theina turin kan thin lunga khateng kan in zirti ranga ya trong thiam mi ka soyang khan mi ne theina man ro poimo tak ania wangin english te hindi te mizo trong te thiam turin mala ola tin kan che vel mi te trong tui kuk takam te vai trong kan ti khulai silchar bengali trong ang te tin a thei phei chuarin burmese tahan lama tanga khilama tanga trong local te tin kan mongolian pui te trong nakina mi khwal tam tak tourist tam tak kan lan ya khilama tang te kan local tam do na khang mi te trong te kan thiam thei phei chuan nakin zela kan nei zan na kong ate mo thil kong sang sanga min pui tur poi mo tak le tangkai tak kha ala ni don ani so wangin helam hoi zong hian kan thei top in chuang u wena local zong te mai Bharat malak na visit Bharat youth parliament hotin na changtheu turin tu sakna ka han chewa abi takin competitors zong te in kal zela tura du sakna ka han cheu kalome.
So we will start with the competition now. The topic for today's competition is 50 years of emergency lessons for Indian democracy. One of the principal objectives of organizing today's program is to emphasize the significance of good governance and to encourage young people to develop a deeper understanding of the governance system of India, as well as to recognize its vital role in the nation's development. The role of the youth is extremely important. Platforms such as this speech competition provide an opportunity for the youth to express their ideas, share their perspectives, and develop leadership and communication skills. Keeping this in mind, let us start the speech competition with our first participant.
Greetings, respected judges and everyone. I am Kilal Biaksangi, and I will be proudly representing Ramthar Branch YMA. Do you know what I love most about living under democratic rule? Well, it will be the freedom and dignity that I will get to have, for through it, I get to freely express my opinions and question even our leaders. And it is the very reason that I get to stand in front of you in this space and freely talk about our politics. Under the rule of Indira Gandhi in 1975, the emergency was declared under Article 352 of the Indian Constitution. For 21 months, the basic and democratic freedom of the people were restricted, and political leaders were arrested, and press was censored, and other fundamental rights were limited. Yet in 1977, the Indian voters get to restore their democracy through elections. So even after 50 years, the emergency still plays the important role that teaches us the importance of protecting our democracy in many ways. Firstly, we must remember that no single leader should have unlimited power. During the emergency, lots and lots of political leaders were arrested under laws which allowed detention without trial, and Parliament continued to function, but its ability to challenge the executive government has weakened. Hence, democracy needs an independent institution. Courts and Parliament have to become stronger so as to be able to challenge and check on the executive power. Secondly, we must remember that our rights must always be protected. Fundamental rights such as freedom of speech, freedom of press, and freedom of protest are not just mere ideas. Instead, they are the very important factors that can help us in protecting our rights and from power abuse of the government. But guess what? One of the most striking features of the emergency was the abolition of these rights. And for example, when population control drives, which was carried by Sanjay Gandhi the son of Indira Gandhi, forced lots and lots of people to undergo vasectomy and sterilization procedures. And especially throughout this period, the press was more strictly censored, and lots of newspaper editors had to first have the approval of the government before their works were published. This was done so as to have minimal publication of works that criticized the government. Thirdly, the third point is that opposition strengthens democracy. It is only natural that even as humans, we all face critics and challenges in our lives. But there's always a silver lining, which is that they only make us stronger. So even that applies to our democracy. Democracy requires criticism so as to become stronger and grow. During the emergency, many opposition leaders, including activists, were arrested. Political protests were restricted and public criticism of the government was discouraged. So what do we learn from this? It is that when objection disappears, democracy becomes weaker. Another point I must add is that us citizens are the very ultimate guardians of democracy. Perhaps the most powerful lesson came in 1977 when the election was held again. Under this 1977 general election of India, voters of India participated and removed the ruling party and elected the Janata Party led by Morarji Desai. This peaceful transfer of power shows us that even after bleak periods and challenging times, with the help of democracy and the participation of the citizens, we can still give rise to the condition of our country and make it even better. The emergency was a dark chapter, it is of no doubt, in history. But it also taught us some of the most important lessons that we have to learn in order to protect our democracy. So even as youths and all of us in general, people of all ages, we have a role to play. It is that we have to give the attention to the Constitution that it deserves and learn about our rights and justice so as to make a better future for generations to come. Thank you.
June 25th, 1975. As most of India slept, its democracy was quietly smothered. Newspapers were censored. Political leaders and opposition leaders were thrown out of their beds and into jail cells. By the time the sun rose, the world's largest democracy had transformed into a nation under authoritarian rule. This was the emergency, a period of 21 long months when civil liberties were suspended, courts were censored, and citizens lived under constant fear of their own government. Respected Chairperson, members of the jury, and my dear friends, I am Deborah Lalom Sangivarte, representing Higher and Technical Institute, Mizoram, Hatim, to speak on one of the most horrific chapters of Indian history that still echoes in our democracy. In the early 1970s, India faced widespread socio-economic and political unrest and the judgment of the Allahabad High Court against Indira Gandhi, the Prime Minister of India, which forced the Iron Lady to advise the President, Fakhruddin Ali Ahmed, to declare a national emergency and imposed Article 352, citing internal disturbances as the reason. The rest is history. And the question we must ask today is, what did India learn? Number one, democracy is not an assurance. Democracy is a delicate framework that needs to be actively nurtured and defended rather than being an automatic system. It is a use it or lose it system. Jawaharlal Nehru described democracy as tolerance of those who agree with us and those who do not. But in 1975, we witnessed that democracy can be weakened from within when his own power-hungry daughter abandoned democratic principles to save her grip on power. That is why we must remember that democracy survives not on paper, but in practice. But in 1977, the people of India proved something powerful. They voted, they removed the government, and democracy was restored. Number 2, power must have limitations. Power is essential for governance, but unlimited power is dangerous. The 44th Constitutional Amendment Act of 1978 replaced the term internal disturbance with armed rebellion, ensuring that Article 20 and 21 could never be suspended again, even in an emergency. Number 3, freedom of press is the backbone of democracy. During the horrendous events of the emergency, the biggest attack was on the press. Newspapers were censored. Some even left blank spaces as silent protests. Those blank spaces spoke volumes of bitter truth. Today, many critics and journalists argue that the media is facing pressure and becoming less independent. That is why we must remember that freedom of press is very essential in our democracy. If the press is suppressed, democracy is weakened. Lastly, youth must stay vigilant. The courage and sacrifices of the youth back in the 1970s set the torch of democracy alive today. The very same fate of democracy is on us now. The future is now. We must rise and stand up tall. VIksit Bharat 2047 can only be achieved if the youth becomes vigilant, empowered, and skilled. 50 years later, where do we stand? India today is stronger. Our institutions have developed and transformed. That is why we should remember that never again should India go silent. True power belongs to the people. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Good afternoon, respected judges, teachers, and my fellow participants. My name is Duchapari, and I will be representing Government Jabona College. Imagine a time when newspaper could not publish the news freely. Political leaders were being arrested for opposing the governments, and many citizens felt afraid to speak openly about the politics. For India, these situations became the reality during the emergency of 1975. Today, I would like to speak on the topic of 50 years of emergency, lessons for Indian democracy. When we discuss 50 years of emergency, we often focus on the crisis and restrictions during this period, but I will be focusing on something that is very important, which is the resilience and the strength of Indian democracy. The emergency began in 1975 when Prime Minister Indira Gandhi declared national emergency. This period lasted for 21 months. During the emergency, many democratic freedoms were limited, civil liberties were suspended, and many political leaders and activists were being arrested. Opposition parties could not operate freely, and many newspapers were placed under strict censorship. Journalists were not allowed to publish freely without the approval of the government. Because of this restriction, the democratic process in India appeared to be weakened. Many people were worried about the future of democracy in the country. However, something very important happened after this period. In 1977, general election was placed in India. The people were given the chance to vote and express their opinions regarding the governments. What happened after this was a remarkable moment in Indian history. The voter chose to change the government. The ruling party lost the elections and power was peacefully transferred to the opposition party. This peaceful change of government showed the strength of India's democratic system. It proved that even after a political crisis, democratic institutions were still functioning. Most importantly, it showed the power of the people. The citizens of India proved that ultimate power in democracy is in the hands of the people, not to any single leader or political party. Democracy can face serious challenges, even in countries where democratic institutions are well established. No democracy is completely free from risks or crises. The emergency was certainly a difficult and controversial chapter in Indian history, but at the same time, it also showed that the foundations of Indian democracy were strong enough to survive political tumor. 50 years later, this period still reminds us of something very important, which is democracy does not survive automatically. It requires active citizens, responsible leaderships, and strong democratic institutions. The greatest protector of democracy is not only the government or the constitution, but the greatest protector of the country is also the people themselves. When citizens stay aware, participate in election, and defend their rights, democracy remains strong. It is very important to know that you and I are equally important in protecting our democracy and our freedom. Thank you for listening to my speech.
Respected judges, teachers, and my fellow students, a pleasure to meet you all. I am Maria Biagzwali, 4th SEM, representing Lunglei Government College. Today, the topic is 50 years of emergency, lessons for Indian democracy. Today, I am going to speak about an important chapters in India's history. The emergency of 1975, and the lessons it gives to our democracy after 50 years. First, what was this 50 years of emergency? 50 years ago, a national emergency was declared on 25th June 1975 by PM Indira Gandhi that lasted 21 months. If we say it will be 1 year and 9 months, that is 1975 and 1977. And it is considered one of the most controversial and darkest chapter in the history of democracy. The democracy was declared under Article 352 of the Constitution, citing internal disturbance. During this period, the fundamental rights of citizens were suspended, the rights to speech, the rights to liberty. The press was censored, unable to publish important information to the citizens of India. Also, political leaders and activists were jailed without trial. Power was centralized in the Prime Minister's office, which the central government gained extraordinary power over the country. The democratic freedom were heavily restricted. In other words, the rule of law was replaced by the rule of a single will. 50 years later, it is still widely debated as a critical lesson for Indian democracy. Second, now, how the emergency was ended. In January 1977, Indira Gandhi announced general election and released many political prisoners. And on 21st March 1977, the emergency was officially withdrawn. In the elections that followed, the people of India voted for a change, and the Janata Party formed a new government. This marked the restoration of full democracy in India. This emergency reminds us of several important lessons. I'm going to point out 3 points only. There are several lessons, okay? And number 1 is the power of the people's vote. The end of the emergency showed the strength of India's democracy, and the ultimate power lies with the citizen. In the elections of 1977, the citizens of India voted not just for a government, but for their freedom itself. Number 2, the Constitution must always be respected and protected, as it is the foundation of our rights and freedom. When those walls are breached, freedom collapses faster than we think. Number 3, institutions and parliament must remain independent and strong, so no authority can misuse this power. When these institutions become subservient to one individual or one party, the light of democracy begins to flicker. As we stand here, the emergency is not only a warning, but also a reminder of the responsibility we all share to protect democratic values. Citizens must remain aware and active as democracy survives through the participation of the people. It's Indian people. If the citizens of India and the people at power, strong-willed and faithful to justice and moral, our India will always strive for the better future. To conclude my speech, let us remember this history, this lesson, so that such situations never threatens our democracy again. Thank you.
50 years ago, an occurrence, a nightmare, a lesson that tested the very souls of our nation. The must guard our respected judges, teachers, and my dearest fellow Indian citizens. My name is Vanlareng Puitinza, and I come as a representative of Higher and Technical Institute, Mizoram, Hatim. On the 25th of June, 1975, India witnessed a declaration of the national emergency declared by the then Prime Minister Indira Gandhi by requesting President Farukdin Ali Ahmed under Article 352 of the Constitution. At that time, the article allowed the President to declare the emergency on 3 grounds: war, external aggression, and in this particular case, internal disturbances. On June 12, 1975, judgment by the Allahabad court found Indira Gandhi guilty of electoral malpractices and declared her election to the Lok Sabha invalid. This posed direct threat on her prime ministership. Facing the prospects of removal from the office, Gandhi had no options and opted to such solutions. But dare I ask, observing at the state of Indian women at that era, had Gandhi not been a woman, would she have been so obliged to do as she had done? Had she been a man, would such conditions have taken a different turn? It is a shame to look at the performance of India, the world's so-called largest democracy, ranking 108th at Gender Inequality Index 2022, 131st at Global Gender Gap Report 2025. Yet this is a land where goddesses are worshipped. But my brothers and sisters, we are not here to talk about gender inequality. We are here to talk about the effect this constitution had on our country that will forever haunt our mind and our hearts. Imagine the horror, waking up one day and learning that you would be forced to be sterilized, you would be homeless, you would be arrested if you protested against the government without any trial. You would be stripped of all your freedom which had been given to us 78 years ago on 15th August 1947. And all of it for what sake? What of the promises made to the people? Just because a prime minister refused to give up her office? The administration failed as Indian in keeping its promises, in upholding its responsibility. After a hard struggle of 21 months, the slogan Indira Hatao, Desh Bachao became the central rallying cry for the 1977 elections, marking the end of the emergency. And in this age, though we remember emergency for its distraught and disturbing challenges, it bore us a lesson of self-reflection. Surely we lost many things, but in return, did we not gain many lessons? The period acted as a wake-up call for citizens to value their democratic rights. The Indian Constitution was changed. 44th Amendment came into existence in 1978 upon the Prime Ministership of Morarji Desai. Institutions improved, a better constitution emerged, democracy submerged its truth once again, and this time with greater and stronger foundations. This again became our lantern, our vision, our hope to see freedom again, to see the return of true democracy we were once promised. When institutions weakened and voices were silenced, it was the voice of the common Indian people that roared back, proving that the soul of this nation cannot be caged. The emergency taught us that institutions are only as strong as the people who defend them. India chose to wake up from that nightmare of authoritarianism. Let the triumph of democracy inspire us to stand up against injustice, ensuring that the spirit of freedom enshrined by our forefathers shines brighter than ever. After all, the fate of India lies in our hand, my dear brothers and sisters. India mein shanti bani rahe. Jai Hind.
Our lovely hosts, honorable dignitaries, fellow delegates, and respected guests, Namaskar. I am Jailaram Darzawi, and my Bharat registration number is MBP 727-28629. And today I'm representing Mizoram Polytechnic Lunglei. And I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude to my Bharat Lunglei Mizoram and Government Jebwana College for giving me an opportunity to express my voices and opinions on 50 years of emergency, lessons for Indian democracy. As we gather to discuss India's future, let's reflect on a pivotal moment in our history, the emergency imposed on June 25, 1975. The 21-month-long period tested our nation's resilience, suspending democratic functioning, restricting fundamental rights, and silencing dissent. What happens when democracy suddenly loses its voice? 50 years ago, India faced this chilling reality. The emergency declared by then Prime Minister Indira Gandhi suspended democratic functioning, restricted fundamental rights, censored the press, and imprisoned thousands of opposition leaders and activists. This period, marked by widespread arrest and silencing of dissent, is etched in India's history as a dark chapter. The emergency taught us invaluable lessons, and that will continue to shape our democracy. Firstly, an independent judiciary safeguards citizens' rights. Courts must remain strong and fearless to protect fundamental rights, even when government overstep their bounds. And secondly, a free press holds government accountable. Media plays a crucial role in informing citizens and checking government's power, ensuring transparency and accountability. Thirdly, fundamental rights are democracy's foundation. Rights like freedom of speech and expression empower citizens to voice their opinion and shape the nation's future. Fourthly, people's power can affect peaceful change. The 1977 election showed how citizens can vote out governments, and underscoring democracy's strength lies in the people. Last but not the least, protecting the Constitution is crucial to prevent misuse of power. The 44th Amendment ensured checks and balances, making it harder to declare an emergency without valid reasons. This safeguards against arbitrary suspension of democratic processes. The emergency's legacy reminds us to remain vigilant and uphold democratic values. As we reflect on this history, let's reaffirm our commitment to protecting India's democratic institutions and the rights that make our democracy vibrant. As young leaders shaping VIksit Bharat, let's pledge to uphold democratic values, protect institutions, and champion free speech. Together, let's make our democracy stronger, ensuring such a period never repeats. Jai Hind. Thank you.
Greetings, citizens of India. I am Melsom Zua Changte, and I have been fortunate enough to be given the honor of exercising my freedom of speech in front of you all on behalf of my college, Higher and Technical Institute, Mizoram Hatim. Taking honesty as my principal policy, if it were up to me, I would have preferred not to waste time on introductions. Because the important thing is not my identity, but the words I'm about to say right now. So heed my words. and let us visualize an era of darkness. 25th June 1975. The sun still rose from the east, and life was as mundane as ever. But one thing was about to change. From the radio came the voice of Prime Minister Indira Gandhi. Brothers and sisters, the president has declared an emergency. There is nothing to panic about. There was a lot to panic about. On the days that followed, the media was shut down. More than 100,000 people were arrested. 0 trials held. Article number 32, which gave us the right to constitutional remedies, the heart and the soul of the Constitution, said Dr. R.D. Ambedkar, was put aside and paralyzed. And under Sanjay Gandhi, the son of Indira Gandhi, more than 81 lakh people were forcibly lobotomized. The freedom given to us by Article number 19 of the Indian Constitution was poof, gone overnight. People, friends, this emergency of 1975 to 77 is not just another chapter in the history of India. It is a lesson, a warning against the dangers of what can be when the equilibrium of the power between the judiciary and the legislature is disrupted. Neither of these two pillars of democracy must ever overpower the other. And another important point to be noted is that when Prime Minister Indira Gandhi sent the letter to President Fakhruddin Ali Ahmad for the declaration of this emergency, not a single discussion was held in Parliament. Forget discussions. Most of our cabinet members were completely oblivious to this decision until the last couple hours. This complete disregard of procedure and the legislature, along with the executive, this centralization of power on the hands of one single individual. If this is not proof that our administrative system is flawed, then I don't know what is. Let this be a lesson that teaches us the necessities and importance of administrative proofreading and perhaps maybe even reforms. Of course, new amendments and schemes like the 44th Constitutional Amendment and, of course, the VIksit Bharat movement have been implemented. But I fear that the events of the emergency in 1975 may still be replicatable in this current situation. Now let us take a look at the current state of India. According to NCRB, National Crime Records Bureau, back in 2024, the amount of rape cases reached more than 30,000. And I believe I need not introduce the massacres and hate crimes committed back in Manipur in 2023. Young women were stripped naked and forced to parade in the streets. Conflicts that killed hundreds, the rising religious persecution and racial discrimination in this country. And what has the government done? Nothing. Or at least nothing that has bared fruit. I may sound anti-patriotic, but I am not. I love my country more than most, if I may say so. But the thing is, I came here to speak the truth, not to sing lullabies. So let this be a lesson, another lesson to the people of India, to exercise our rights before they get taken away from us again. Let this be a lesson to the people of democracy. Wake up. Because democracy is rooted in unity. So let not anything tear you apart from your brethren, no matter your skin color or your caste. So therefore, brothers and sisters, let not the faintest voice from the smallest person in this room go unheard. That is all I can say today. Thank you for having me. Dhanya ho Bharat.
Good afternoon. Who is the most powerful person in democracy? It is the Prime Minister or the citizen? Honorable judges, teachers, and my fellow participants, today I would like to speak about the topic of 50 years of emergency, lessons for Indian democracy. I am Golden Sanghi, proudly representing Government of J. Buana College. Half of a century has passed since one of the most challenging we are faced in our nation's history. As we know, it is really to remember the past, but not always the past. It is for the future and learn a lesson for our future generation. As we all know, India is one of the largest democracies in the world, and more than a billion of people choose their leaders through their votes. In other cities and other countries, India also faced new challenges, which happened on 25 June 1975. The government declared the national emergency under the Act of Article 352 Constitution, which was citing internal disturbance. The emergency lasted 21 months until March 1977. During this time, the Indian democracy are dramatically changed. Many fundamental rights were suspended and stopped. Our freedom, our equality, personal liberty, and our freedom of speech were suspended. Protections from the unfair arrested were suspended during the law called MISA, Maintenance of the Internal Security Act. And prominent political leaders such as Jaya Prakash Narayan, Morarji Desai, and Atal Bihari Vajpayee were arrested without any trial. They were not allowed to speak publicly. And also, the newspaper and the press were controlled by the government. The journalists could not speak the truth and report, and controlled by the government. For instance, the Indian Express once left a blank space in the editorial to show that the press was being silent. Ordinary people are really suffered, and they were forced restrictions, sterilization campaigns during this time. The cities of Delhi, the slum areas were demolished, and the people who are from the poor families, the slum areas were lost their homes. It clearly shows that in this period of time, when democracy becomes weak. However, India's spirit did not break. The elections were announced in 1977. The people used the most powerful weapons they had, the vote. They vote for newborn, which is the ruling government was declared and defeated, and the new democracy government was reborn. The peaceful change, the powerful show that in a democracy, it is clearly show that the real democracy belongs to the people. After 50 years later, the emergency still teaches us how the importance of our responsibility, our freedom of speech, value our freedom, our liberty, and our equality. As a student and our future leaders, our responsibility is really important to protect our freedom and participate in a democracy. Let us stay alert, value our freedom. The emergency reminds us how important freedom and democracy are. The fathers of the Indian Constitution, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar once said, democracy means nothing if the people are not able to work the democracy for the common goods. Thank you.
भारत में लोकतंत्र कोई उपहार नहीं, ये एक जिम्मेदारी है. Namaskar to our respected judges, teachers, and my fellow citizens of India. My name is Sheila Rimrati, representing Higher Technical Institute, Mizoram Hatim. Imagine being paralyzed, unable to do anything, feeling completely helpless, and that was our India 50 years ago during the emergency. On the 25th of June 1975, the Prime Minister of India, Indira Gandhi, declared a national emergency under Article 352. During this period, many democratic rights were suspended, the press was censored, and many political leaders were arrested. The government ruled with strict control for 21 months. In March 1977, the emergency ended and political elections were held, restoring democracy. The 50 years of emergency taught important lessons about protecting democracy. It showed that giving too much power to the government can lead to despotism, so strong checks and balances are necessary. The conflict with the judiciary, especially in Eddie M. Jabalpur v. Shivkan Shukla, highlight the need for an independent judiciary to protect citizens' rights. During this period, many fundamental rights were restricted, which later led to stronger protections through the 44th Amendment of the Constitution of India. It also showed that free and responsible media is essential to inform the people and hold the government accountable. Overall, the emergency reminds us that democracy survives only when rights, institutions, and press freedom are protected. The 50 years of emergency taught us, youth, like you and me, that we should not stand injustice. My fellow citizens, we live in a democratic country where every individual has the rights and ability to choose what they want to do with their lives. That's the essence of freedom. But as an Indians, I want us to ask ourselves these questions. Are these rights being practiced freely? Are they applied to every corner of the country? We speak about democracy, yet why a country still exists where many rape cases are ignored, where women do not feel free to walk alone at night, and sometimes not even in daylight? Unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, we live in a country where there is poverty due to overpopulation and lack of resources, where not everyone has access to education and basic needs. The image of India at global spectrum is relatively poor. Many analysts have labeled India as a flawed democracy or partly free nation, inclining towards the autocratization, which signifies the downfall of the status of the nation. As a woman, I crave for my own safety. And as a youth of this country, I crave for unprivileged children to get educated, a land free from corruption, a land free from communal conflict, and a land where we're not discriminated by race, caste, and religion. 50 years of emergency, its shadow still serves as a warning. Freedom can be weakened when power goes unchecked. It can also be restored when people demand accountability. The challenge for India today is not only to remember the past, but to build a future where democratic values reach all homes and streets. One day, life will flash before your eyes. Make sure it's worth watching. You and I are the future of this country. The future of India lives in the courage of its youth. And as one in unity, we can make India great again. VIksit Bharat 2047, Jai Hind.
Imagine discovering that your fundamental rights has disappeared. When you wake up one morning, there are vacant areas in your newspapers. Your leaders vanish overnight. Fear moves more quickly than reality. This was not the work of fiction. This was India in 1975. Greetings, respected chairpersons, esteemed jurists, and beloved dear friends. I am Sila Remruat Puya, representing Higher and Technical Institute, Mizoram, to speak on the theme, 50 Years of Emergency, Lessons for Indian Democracy. On 25th June 1975, the Prime Minister of India, Indira Gandhi, under Article 352 of the Indian Constitution, declared national emergency due to internal disturbance. The promise of freedom in the Constitution has eroded overnight. During this time, many opposition leaders were arrested. The press was restricted. Article 19 was suspended. Article 21, right to life means death. Article 32 was effectively paralyzed. Meanwhile, MISA and other detention prevention legislations were excessively employed. Later, when elections were announced in 1977, the people of India reacted bravely. The reigning government was overthrown, and Morarji Desai rose as the Prime Minister of India. What followed is the 44th Constitutional Amendment Act of 1978 that changed the term internal disturbance with armed rebellion, making sure that even during an emergency, Article 20 and 21 could never again be suspended. So, what are the lessons for us? To begin with, democracy is not self-sufficient. It only endures when people are conscious and institutions are autonomous. Secondly, political convenience must yield to constitutional virtue. Power may be granted by law, but it should be guided by values. Thirdly, disagreement does not equal to betrayal. It is a democratic obligation. The media, civil society, and institution does not pose threat to the country. They are its cornerstone. After 50 long years, emergency is not just history. It is a warning symbol of the Constitution, because democracy gradually deteriorates when people stop asking questions. Today, I would like to reaffirm that we, the people of India, are not just voters. We are the stakeholders. And if we normalize silence, we weaken democracy. Emergency was a dark chapter, but it was also a test. A test that India hit several boundaries and success, ladies and gentlemen. Lastly, emergency should not cause political division. Rather, it should bring us together on a constitutional level. It should also serve as a constant reminder to all the citizens that vigilance is a must. Now, let us take a brief checkup on the state of democracy in India as of now. As per VDEM Institute report 2025, India was ranked 100 out of 179 countries in terms of liberal democracy, 151st out of 180 countries in terms of freedom of press. Just these two samples, we can know that our democracy is a threat in some form or the other. This is not a good sign for the country striving toward VIksit Bharat 2047. Therefore, let us recall 1975 not with terror, but with responsibilities. Let us safeguard constructive dialogues, protect institutions, and cherish liberty in deeds as much as words. Jai Hind.
Good evening, everyone. As our judges are summing up our remarks, and I'll have some few words. And it is my honor and privilege to be here as a judge in this competition. First and foremost, I'd like to appreciate all the participants for their confidence, preparation, and dedication. It really is beyond my expectation in how all the participants expressing their thoughts and deliver their speech. I thought they are going to deliver in Mizo, but it is truly a pleasure to witness such an inspiring speech competition today. Public speech is not only speaking well in front of the audience. It is about expressing your ideas very clearly. And it is about elaborating your critical thinking orderly. And it is about communicating your audience confidently and imparting your aura to your audience. I think everyone will understand the word aura. Aura has become the most important unseen and unheard, but everyone in the room have felt criterion in this post-Gen Z generation, okay? So today each one of you, every participant demonstrate this quality in your own unique way. So that to me, me and my fellow judges witnessed many promising young speakers who have a potential to become a leader of this state or this country as well in the future to come. Thank you.
VIksit Bharat 2047. My Bharat, India kantuna kan Prime Minister hian kumsang ni somli pasari thlenga India ram din mun tur athir na engtin nge India ram hi chutiang in omro se ati na tura khami kal zel chhokha ania tuna parliament youth parliament po hi chu ta chuan lo tel zel ula chutianga din mun poi mo tak chang tur le in malam hun tura chataka hun mang thei turin thalai te lom thu soi chungin kan fui thar cheu ni e kalome